So we were talking about someone who was, and this will be a Nazir who, or it doesn't have to be a Nazir, someone who has gone down to swim in a lake which is in a cave. Let's say it's a pool in a cave, and he encounters a dead body there. And under certain circumstances, he's still considered to be tameh. And the Mishnah said, Yesh raglaim ladavar. There's a basis for the matter. Actually, literally, it means the matter has legs. And by the way, this is still an expression in modern Hebrew, I think, and certainly in halachic literature, when we want to say something, something, well, has got a reasonable basis, we say yesh lo raglaim. It's got legs. In other words, there is some kind of reasonable basis for the matter. And the Mishnah now is going to go out. We're in the 9th chapter. This is the final chapter. It's going to go out and look at a number of other situations where we rule in a certain way on the same basis, ki yesh raglaim ladavar, because the matter has legs, or in the way generally I've translated it on this source sheet, because there's a basis for the matter. And we're going to begin. We're going to begin actually with Tuma and Tahara. We're going to begin with issues of purity and impurity, and issues of corpses. But this is not someone that has found a corpse while swimming in a lake in a cave. So this is not the cave example that we saw yesterday, but this is the example of someone who maybe owns a patch of land or he owns a house, and he finds a dead body on his land. And of course, that's very challenging. I mean, normally we wouldn't move a dead body. But you could move a dead body, but if that space is a graveyard, at that point, you just have to leave the whole graveyard. And the question is going to arise, well, is this a graveyard? Has he unwittingly purchased land which is a graveyard? Or is that just a dead body? In other words, at what point does a dead body transform itself into a graveyard? Let's have a look at the Mishnah. So someone who finds a corpse for the first time. So he feels as if we haven't found any corpses in this space before. And he's lying normally. Bartanura explains that he's just lying. Bartanura says he doesn't have his head between his thighs because the Gentiles bury people like that, but Jews do not. So he's just lying in the way that Jews normally bury their dead. By the way, in the time of the Mishnah, they did not use coffins. Coffins are, very heavily used in Europe, in North America. In the time of the Mishnah, and by the way, still today, in Eretz Yisrael, they don't use coffins. So he's mushkav katarko, he's lying normally. So it feels like this could be a Jewish dead body. By the way, Gentile dead bodies, non-Jewish dead bodies, do not carry tumah. So there's something about death there's something about death. I mean, we've got the ceremony of the red heifer, but something that only applies to Jewish death. Maybe that's a whole different share, which we can come back to at another point. Mushkav kadarko, he's lying in the usual way. It seems like it's a Jewish body. Not love et tusatzor. So he can actually move it, but he's going to move it with the earth around it. Because the earth around it, some of his blood or his body might have soaked into the earth around it. So he's going to move actually the whole body and the earth around it off his property. And he's going to bury it in a graveyard. Matzah he's found two. Not lan vetu satan. He finds two, he's going to remove them together with their soil. Two might be coincident. Matzah shalosha. If he finds three, so now we're past coincidence. Matzah shlosha. Im yesh ben ze lazeh me'arba mot ad shmona. Kimlot mita ve'kovreha harei zo shchunat tuvarot. If he found three, and the distance between the first and the last, so between the first and the third, is between 4 to 8 amot, then this is a graveyard. And the way they would build graveyards, and by the way, these might be areas, with caves. So you might imagine a place with sort of multiple caves and some kind of courtyard, connecting up the caves. And the caves themselves might be about 6 amot, 6 cubits, that's about 3 yards. And the courtyard connecting them might be about 6 amot, about 3 yards. Anyway, if there are 8 amot between the first and the last, then this seems to be a graveyard. So what's he going to do? So he's going to check around that point for 20 amot away. He's going to go around 20 amot, which is essentially the length of a grave plus the length of a courtyard plus the length of another grave. So he's going to check for a sort of a set of graves here. And if you want to object that 6 and 6 and 6 doesn't add up to 20, it adds up to 18. Well, the sages, essentially, they just add on a couple of amot just in order to just check for any problem. So he's going to check 20 amot around. So he finds one grave in the 20, or one corpse, actually. He finds one corpse in this 20 cubit circle, in this 20 amot circle. He checks another 20 amot. So in other words, at this point now, we seem to be assuming this is a graveyard. So every time we find a corpse, we check another 20 amot around it to see whether we can get another one, and so on. And we are going to, in this way, we're effectively going to locate the whole of the graveyard. Why are we going to do this? She raglaim la davar. Because the thing has legs. She raglaim la davar. In other words, there's a basis. There's a basis for the idea that this might be a graveyard. If he'd found it at the outset, this corpse that he found possibly now 20 amot away, if he'd found it at the outset, then he'd have not. If he'd found it at the outset, this corpse 20 amot away, he'd have removed it with the soil that it occupied, as we found. But this isn't just a corpse 20 amot away. This is a corpse that is linked to the first 3 that he found, seems with these chains of 20 cubits that we've actually identified a graveyard. And yesh raglaim la davar. There is a basis for this.